Thank you for your service to the nation. The number one priority for the federal government is national defense, and that's what the priority in Congress needs to always be first and foremost. But Social Security this year for the first time hit the red, and that was before anybody expected it to, because with the economy the way it is, you had record numbers of people retiring and record numbers of people having disability. This isn't a problem we can put off for another day. It's been shelved and shelved and shelved, despite the fact that our leaders have known it's broken. You can't ignore it. It has to be addressed, and there's real solutions. Let me give you an example. I met a 23-year-old man who's on Social Security disability because he's illiterate. He lives in the household with 2 other illiterate adults and 2 little children, a 6-year-old and an 8-year-old. There's not one piece of reading material in that entire house. Not only is that 23-year-old going to continue to be illiterate, but those little girls are going to grow up illiterate too, because there's not one person who can teach them to read. If we took our resources and spent 2 years teaching him to read, we could solve the problem, get him off Social Security disability, and make sure those girls have a future.
Jim May.
Jim who?
May. Okay. Tony Eddy. Maybe I pronounced it wrong. It's E-D-D-Y.
You got it.
Okay.
Good evening. Someone already asked my main question that I had. But I do have a question about national defense and how do we maintain or improve our national defense without increasing our deficit.
Well, I think if you look at what's really going on, our deficit is more a result now of late of non-defense spending. And if we're a time of war, this country, we have to do we're going to have to do what we need to do to win. And one of the problems is, I guess, the war of terror. We're not sending a clear message that we're going to win. We send mixed signals to our allies so they get weak knee. And it's time to stand up and say, we're going to win this war. We're not going to tolerate the terrorists to intimidate us and come over here. They have one goal, is to destroy Americans and kill us. That's the easiest way you can say it. And so we're going to spend the money to win. And after we win, just like after World War II, spending was up. And that spending ended because the war was over. But the problem is, we're seeing the federal government spending increase in the entitlements and everything else in non-defense areas, and that just keeps growing. There's no end to it. At least when you fight a war and you win, like after World War II, spending it way down. And that's what we need to do. We need to win this war first. But the spending problem is not really defense.
Dwight Eisenhower said, beware the industrial military complex. And I think the problem that's happened to us here in America is we're the policemen of the world. I don't know how that's happened to us. We have troops spread out all over. I think there's a big difference between the war in Afghanistan and the job that we have to complete over there, and the fact that we run to the far corners of the world every time there's some type of conflict. And I think it's reached to the point where it's not financially feasible. We know that war has to be declared by Congress. We haven't had a declared war since the Second World War. They've been all military interventions by the decree of the President of the United States. I think we need, again, to come back to the Constitution. If we're going to have a war, declare a war, go fight the war, and get out. But bring some of our troops home, and let's take care of ourselves here. That would be what I'm looking for.
National defense is the most important thing that our government can do for us. But that doesn't mean that the Defense Department should be sacrosanct when it comes to looking at cost savings measures. Russia went broke in Afghanistan. They lost their empire, fell apart. Afghanistan is known as the graveyard of empires. We send, I'm not a fan of nation building, I'll tell you that. When you send 100,000 troops to a country for 10 years at a cost of about $1 million per troop per year, and then completely rebuild the infrastructure and the institutions and everything like that. There's other ways we can accomplish our objective. First of all, anybody that attacks us has to be punished. They have to be punished. And for too long, we turned our head the other way when embassies got bombed and the U.S. Code got bombed, and the Twin Towers and the Marine barracks in Lebanon. We have to punish those people. But it doesn't have to be 10 years and 100,000 troops. And nation building, if you go with Iraq, and then you go to Afghanistan, and then Yemen and Somalia, where are you going to stop? And I can't explain all this to you in 1 minute.
You know, defense spending is so important because even though we haven't declared war, there's other people that has declared war on us. And whether we declare war or not, we got to realize that we are fighting a war. When people flew planes into the Trade Center, they were declaring war, whether we liked it or not. And we have to have the power and the people to go defend ourselves. But I believe that we need to have some wisdom of Pat. He said, when you fight a war, you hit somebody as quick as you can, as hard as you can, and you get out as quick as you can. But I wouldn't support pulling out in Afghanistan right now because I think we need to honor our people that sacrifice their life and get the job done correctly. Because if we just would pull out and give up, I believe that would be spitting on the people that sacrifice their lives and energy to go fight this war. So we can't just cut the fence. We have got to stand strong as America.
The preamble of the Constitution specifically states that the role of our federal government is to ensure domestic tranquility and provide for the common defense. That's the #1 goal of the federal government. That's what their focus needs to be, and that's where we need to be committed. We need to be committed to victory. We need to not announce timelines. We need to respect our military leaders. If our commander-in-chief does not have military experience, then get the people with military experience to run the military and make the decisions. And don't have Congress interfering with that. Have them getting that information and making rational decisions. But the issues we just discussed before, Social Security, Medicaid, and Medicare, are what's consuming the budget. That's where our deficit is coming from. Those are the programs we're going to have to talk about first and foremost, because national defense is the primary goal of federal government. We should commit money there, not wasteful money. We should not be spending thousands of dollars for this pencil. It needs to be common sense. It needs to be money that we actually need to spend. But that's where our #1 priority needs to be.
Under the second Bush administration, Bush 43, and with the help of Congress, we won't totally blame it on government, but especially with the help of Congress. If you put Katrina spending and if you put defense spending off to the side, and just go with the domestic spending, it was the largest increase in our history. It wasn't Democrats that caused the problem, it was Republicans. Now, that being said, we've got a president that wants to totally outdo that as quickly as possible. Okay, and yeah, it already has. Yeah, so, but the point is yeah, we have to be defense spending has to be reasonable, and we have to have it within budget. We can't police the whole world and expect to sustain our budget. But as Jeanette said, if we don't tackle the domestic spending, that's what's blowing the hole in our budget. If we don't tackle these issues, if we don't fix these problems, if we just hope they'll go away, it's not going to happen.